it has been very difficult. But the president and his administration have put in place appropriate policies and programs which have seen the growth of the economy, of the national wealth, by 5.7%. The agricultural sector has seen serious improvement. And of course, you know that the program of subsidy of the fertilizer has really helped. And we will grow, I mean, we will increase the momentum. We will use these good indicators, the economic indicators, to move this economy to further levels, you know, to higher levels. So I think basically, if you are talking about inflation, you have seen 2023, the inflation was well managed at 7.7%. Now at the moment is 5.6 or is 6 point something? 6.9. So we are managing the issues of inflation very well. We have seen the jobs creation within in different sectors. Quite a number of jobs has been created. The wage employment grew by 4.1%, translating to 122,000 jobs created in 2023. Informal sector jobs grew by 4.5% in 2023. Private sector employment, especially manufacturing sector, accounted for 340,000 jobs, while agriculture, forestry, fishing employed 302,000 people. I mean, all the indicators, all the economic indicators, whether it is money and banking finance, whether it is public finance, we have seen proper we have seen proper management of our economy. However, there is the national debt grew. Total debt rose by 19.3 to 9.6 trillion by the end of 2023, and that can be attributed by the behavior of the Kenyan shilling versus dollar. At the moment, we are talking about 128. I mean, $1 going for 128 Kenyan shilling. That has reduced the national debt tremendously by huge percentage.
All right. We'll be discussing all those in a bit more detail. I'd like to begin with the issue of employment, because this was one of the promises that the government had given, that will create, what is it, about 1 million jobs every year. Now, Honorable Basil, the survey puts the total new jobs created in the last 1 year in the economy at 848,000 shillings, and 721,000 of those came from the informal sector. So that's about 85% of all the new jobs created came from the informal sector. When you take a look at wage employment, for example, the report says that wage employment in the modern sector grew by 4.1%, which translated to creation of about 122,000 new jobs in the sector. Again, the total number of self-employed and unpaid family workers increased between 2022 and 2023. When you take a look at those figures, what does this data tell us when it comes to, you know, job creation and the environment we need to be creating now for the informal sector to thrive?
First, I want to disagree with my brother, Honorable Ruku, by telling him this is a manipulated data. And it is done so deliberately to please the lenders, to tell people lending the country that our country is doing well. And I have very many reasons to tell you is a manipulated data. One, if you look at our performance of our currency against local currencies, it is performing below expectation. Because Kenya shilling to Tanzanian shillings used to exchange at 22 shillings. Today it's about 19, it even went low to about 16. If you look at the shilling to dollar, it used to be 111. That's the time of Uhuru Ruto. Today it is over 139. Even sometimes it actually oscillating in a very unpredictable oscillation. From 163, then you wake up in the morning you find it is 140, a drop of 20 unexplained drop. And when you look at, I gave him time to talk.
He's
These are manipulated data. You can't read to us manipulated data. Read, let's be escapists. Let's resonate with the reality. Can you allow me to speak?
So let's have the
allow me to speak.
128 to the dollar.
But I'm saying it's unpredictable. You wake up tomorrow, you find it's 143. Before you sleep, it's 120. Sometimes you wake up, it's 143. A very unpredictable variation, and actually it is even bringing confusion in the Forex Bureau and so many losses to people who are relying on imports. We are talking of people importing cars, etc. You buy a car when the dollar is, let's say, 143. By the time the car gets here, it's 115 or 120. When you are buying, it goes again to 150. So if you see an economy that's performing like that, one tells you it's a very unstable economy, because that stability is supposed to be seen, but we are not seeing that stability. That's why even I doubt or I wonder how these Forex Bureau people operate, because you can get yourself in a very huge loss with such a unstable variation of currencies. So if you look at these indicators, number 2, look at the poverty index. Our poverty level has gone up, and the poverty level accompanied or supported by mortality, because mortality rate is an outcome or an output of underperforming economy. So that we don't just look at data that is manipulated to please certain quarters. Because as I've told you, anyone who is working in the Bureau of Statistics, they want to remain at work. If you depict the reality, you may be shown the door tomorrow, you know. So these are people who are manipulating data just to remain at work or to retain their jobs. So the reality is, one, unemployment is above the roof. And when you talk of informal sector, how can informal sector grow when the Punitive Finance Act was in operation? Remember, the ingredient of economy growth and production, I'm talking of fuel, rose from 80% to 16%. And automatically, anyone who is an economist will tell you, if fuel, which is an essential ingredient of production, was increased by 100%, because from 80% to 60%, fuel prices multiplied, you know. In reality, that should have slowed the growth of the economy, because people could not invest. And actually, instead of creating incentives, like what I would refer as disposable income, because when you have reduced taxes, you have disposable income for people to invest in the economy. And the supply, the flow of money in the economy increases when you have such a model. But when you increase taxes, people run away, investors move. And you saw even Tanzanian bragging and saying we are at the recipient or the receiving end of investors who are running from Kenya. And when you have investors running away from your country, then automatically your economy has to be slowed. So I have all the reason to tell you these are manipulated data. And unless we become realists, not escapists of reality, just to please or to, you know, to lie to ourselves that we are doing well, then we are going to see worse. And that is what exactly what the media, the journalists who tend to be independent at this point are telling the nation. And you are seeing, even when you look at budget cuts, most of the ministries are getting budget. Why do we have budget cuts if the economy is growing or is performing well? We have just read 219 billion cut on health, you know. You saw a strike from doctors. These are all indicators to tell something is wrong. You know, expenditures are growing at the expense of income, which is constant.
It's an important factor you bring.
If you look at the debt ratio, let me continue. If you look at the debt ratio to the GDP, it has rose. Initially, it used to be at 67%. Today, we are talking of 69%. You know, the rate of borrowing, of course, has grown up. So all these factors put together, even if you manipulate the data, people know the truth. And that's why if I was the head of state, I'll tell them, give me the real data so that I know what to do or to plan well. Because if you give me manipulated data, then I can't plan. I'll be off the target
All right,
in my
but
planning.
this is the data that we do have, and we don't have much evidence as to whether it is manipulated data, but you do raise very credible questions, you know, because we're speaking on one end saying the economy is doing well, but cutting budget on very crucial aspects. So, Sion, part of the survey in the report says that the wage bill in the public sector, you know, there's been a wage increment, so to speak, especially in the education sector, because the Teacher Service Commission has employed more teachers, and, you know, it goes on and on with that. But when you take a look at the dailies, we still have reports of JSS teachers now staging demonstrations every Monday, every Thursday. Would you agree with Basil that this is manipulated data?
Yeah, when you see social institutions, organized workers, agitating for pay, that's a normal thing. It has got nothing to do with the prevailing economic situation. That's a different agenda altogether. But I think... But
it says the wage bill has increased, the Teacher Service Commission, but teachers have not been employed as they were
Michelle, I'll come to that. Let me weigh in on the matter that has been on the table. Number one, the effects of COVID on the economy was real. Shut down in businesses and job losses. And the recovery is still ongoing, not only in Kenya, but globally. The economic situation globally is still struggling and recovering from COVID. And Honorable Basil here is trying to allude that the data from Kenya National Bureau of Statistics is manipulated. And if indeed it is manipulated, we should not have this show. You have no business inviting us to come and discuss manipulated data. Then we are not serious Kenyans. Kenya National Bureau of Statistics annually releases data on the economic survey, which is accurate, which is real. And even in the education sector, it has talked of the indicators of decline in employment of teachers in the primary subsector, while enrollment is going up. Those are real data. The real data will help us to make decisions and adjust accordingly, and know where the right projection of the economy. We've looked at the data indicates that is 5.9% national growth in terms of wealth. This is data, and we can't fight it. And I would like to tell Mheshimiwa here that if there's anything that you can never fight, is statistical data that is accurate, that is real. Even if you went out to the field and collect the same, it will remain the same. 850 more thousand jobs have been created, and that is particularly in the informal sector. Inflation rate has come down to below 7 from 9. One thing you must admit, at the exit of the previous regime of the handshake, the economy was in tatters. In fact, it was in HDU. It was headed to the mortuary. Now it was brought back by Kenya Kwanza administration down to the ward, and it's now discharged. It's up and running. And the GDP growth has been put at 5.4% and above. And our economy is one of the fastest growing globally. The banks are reporting huge profits from Equity and CBA, KCB, talk of any other bank, and even including Safaricom. They're making huge profits. Kenya Airways, for the first time, it is also making profits. The cost of fuel, which was an avenue of conduit of stealing public money through what was called subsidies by the handshake regime, and they must be ashamed of it. The cost of fuel is now stabilizing and is coming down because of the strong shilling balancing against the dollar. And if he doesn't know the figures at the Beru, it's almost now at 129 shillings. It is stabilized. And when you look at the strength of our shilling, which determines the exports and imports, it's always matched against the dollar. And there is no way you can talk of any other economy around Kenya that can match Kenya. Kenya remains the most competitive destination for investors. And for information's sake, those who would want to invest in South Sudan, they will have to place their money in Kenya.
All right.
Those who would want to invest in Tanzania, Uganda, and other places, they'll have to put their money in Kenya.
All right,
so Kenya remains a center of investment in the region. So the economy is getting strong. And then down to your question. Down to your question.
For 2 hours.
No. This is not a Basil show. You want to run the show.
Let's move on, Sosion. We do have quite a lot to get.
Yes, then down to your question. You are seeing teachers agitating, and that's a different component altogether. The JSS teachers and teachers generally. If you look at the Kenya Kwanza administration plan of employment of teachers, is to bridge 116,000, the gap of 116,000. So far, the government has onboarded 56,000. And I dare say, this is a Kenya Kwanza plan. It is not anything that was initiated by the unions or employer or anybody. It is a Kenya Kwanza plan, and it has onboarded 56,000 teachers, and 46,000 of them are on internship.
It is a question, Sosion, that funding for education has gone up, but the number of teachers has dropped.
If you look at the budget, let's
move on from that.
No. If you look at the budget, if you look at the budget. If you look at
let's have
let's give it to
time limits for each contributor, because this Sosion can speak endless, and he doesn't understand. We are three of us, and we also have time to contribute.
Rightfully so.
Now, I want to ask him whether he's aware of something we call baseline data. If you want to do any scorecard, you have to start with the baseline data. Sosion doesn't seem to have an understanding of something called baseline data. By the time this government took office, that was August, that is September 2022, it should have displayed the data by that time and then compared with what we have now. I'll give a good example. He's talking of fuel is coming down. The time when this government took office, fuel was going for 113. Today is 120 something, you know. So you can't tell me that we are performing well when we are even above what was left. We can only talk of good performance if by baseline data we drop from the time when the government of today took office. And that is where data assists to be able to measure progression. But someone who is in ignorance or suffering maybe from lack of understanding is talking of hypothetical figures here that is so wrong and misleading. So he should be telling us, when this government took office, this is where we are. Today, this is where we are, you know. Not just talking because he thinks people are forgotten where we were by the time the new government came to office.
All right.
Now, making reference to some of the comments he's making, he has digressed, you know, talking of, you know, making references to some of, like what is making reference to the new employment, you know, new jobs, etc. If I ask him, apart from the ambitious, and I would say, you know, the housing program, which is not reflecting the wishes of Kenyans, and the way a majority of, you know, the so-called job creation, like most of him and others are saying, jobs are being created through the ambitious housing project. The truth is, those are not jobs being created. What is happening is actually loss of resources, particularly if you look at people who are employed, who are funding a program that is, which you can't call a mortgage program, you know. You are being deducted money, but you don't know where even the house is, you know. So you are paying for, I would call it an housing scam, something which is not there, you know.
But
for example, if I make
Kenyans who say they have actually gotten houses through the Boma Yetu website.
Now let's go, for example, I'll make reference to two counties. Tell me, where are these affordable houses in Machakos County? Where are these affordable houses in Makueni County? Where are these affordable houses in Northeastern? We are talking of houses which are built, some in Nairobi, others in Rift Valley, you know. You find someone in the village, somewhere in the village of Makueni or somewhere, is being levied money for a house he doesn't have or you'll never have. And that's why I'm saying these are scams. Because in reality, and I mentioned in Parliament, you can even make reference to my amendment in Parliament, where I said, if we are honest to the housing program, why don't we remove taxes on all inputs of construction? I'm talking of, you remove taxes on cement, you remove taxes on timber, you remove taxes on steel, and Kenyans will be able to build houses
and it's
cheaply,
interesting, the data shows that there's been a decrease in cement production,
cheaply and the way they want. But today, someone already has a mortgage, which is servicing, and the same person is being levied money for a house, which he'll have to buy at some point, and the price pegged on these houses, even more than what Chinese are building, are selling to Kenyans without any single contribution to their housing project. So there is so much that it's happening, and which we have to be honest, not just to speak so that we remain at our jobs. So Sion has to speak so that he remains on the pay.
Let's give it to
remain loyal.
We must take a break. But this is Ruku's time.
No, I think we should not use this show to trivialize some of very important issues. We should be able to tell Kenyans, interpret what is happening. For instance, if you look at the major contributors of the economic growth of 2023, there is a sector there which is contributing minimally, and should be the sector which is seriously contributing to the economic growth of this nation, and that is the transportation. Transportation of movement of goods and services from one point to another is an extremely critical sector. Remember, household in Kenya, and this is a data provided for, and we can get it, spends those at the bottom of the pyramid, they spend about 50% of the household income in transportation because of how our transport system is inefficient. And we are seeing that the managers within the transportation sector are not helping Kenyans. So it is extremely important to come up with policies and programs which can transform the transportation sector. Transportation sector is one of the sectors which can create thousands of jobs. At the moment, I believe we should not be using the matatus we are using from Githurai, from Kawangware, from all the corners of this city. We should be having a proper rapid transport system implemented in Nairobi, if not other towns, proper, so that the people of this city can enjoy proper transport system. And the people in charge of transportation sector, CS Murkomen, and other senior, the PSs, should be telling Kenyans exactly what are the policy shifts which they are coming up with in the transportation sector. This data is showing that transportation sector is doing extremely bad, and is one of the sector which can create thousands and thousands of jobs. It's one of the sector which many Kenyans can invest in, if the sector is well organized, is well regulated. At the moment, the sector is not properly regulated, but you find Kenyans still investing in this sector, buying matatus, buying buses, and doing many other things within the sector. So if we give them proper environment, proper incentive, if we organize our towns in a most appropriate, proper urban planning, we will see this sector growing in a serious way, and it will contribute in a major way to job creation.
We must take a break.
Growth of this economy.
We must take a break, gentlemen. But that urban mobility is a conversation that we definitely must have in a bit more detail. Let's take a break. When we come back, a bit more as we dissect the economic survey released by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. Agriculture contributing hugely to the economy's rebound in the year 2023. But the report also shows that there was a 19% increase in crime in the country. What does that mean, especially if the economy really is on the rebound? We'll be sampling some of your thoughts and comments on this conversation after the break. The hashtag is New Dawn. Our X handle is @K24.